Take the floor. Minister, I don't know how the minister just rolled off the tongue. MLA Neufled, who's taking time out of his schedule to be able to come speak to us today. It's a chance to listen to what's coming up and a chance to ask some questions. And thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry for cutting it short for any of those that were uncomfortable whether I might not make it or not. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. Loving every minute of it, and it's great to get out and meet everyone again. For those of you that may be aware, I've been assigned the Shadow Ministry of Energy, and I've been spending an awful lot of time both in Victoria, Vancouver, and in the major energy areas for the Northeast. So I was out in Kitimat, Terrace, and I'm heading to Calgary next week for the simple fact that my goal in my shadow ministry is to do everything that I can to elevate the economic potential for this area. And I'm specific to energy, but that has absolutely no reason why I won't be engaged with forestry, why I won't be engaged with mining. And I have had my colleagues engage, the colleagues of the appropriate shadow ministries engage in those areas as well. And I will very much continue to do so. What I would like to say, well, actually a little bit of an introduction about myself, I guess, for those of you that maybe didn't follow me in the election as closely as you might have wanted to. I do come from a farming background. I'm the eldest son of a first-generation farm in northern Saskatchewan. I'm not embarrassed to say we grew up below the poverty line, and the reason I think that's important to share is that I absolutely know how to push two nickels together and make a quarter out of it. That's the way we were raised, and that's the way that we had to do things. The reason why I feel that's important to share is because, as most of us, being that this is a chamber event, most of us would be either in business or certainly related to business. And I think we're all not oblivious to the fact that this province has some significant challenges ahead. We are in a very significantly economically challenged time right now. And with the threats of tariff from the south that we've been hearing recently, we could be facing something that is shockingly devastating for our area and for our province. And I don't want to dwell on the negative component, but I do want us to be wide-eyed and sober to the fact that the last projection that I read this week is that if those tariffs do come in, we could be facing 144,000 job losses in this province, and we could be seeing a very significant hit to our economy, which is going to affect each and every one of us in this room for our ability, the cost of everything, our ability to provide services if we are in a service sector. It is a significant challenge. Unfortunately, that's not something that we would necessarily have control over as opposition, although we have been pushing the government. So I'm going to go from the very negative to a much more positive note. So we start with the negative. The positive component is that, again, I've been traveling a significant amount in these last couple of months. And in that time that I've been traveling, I have been spending an awful lot of time with CEOs, presidents of various large corporations. I've also been spending time with the energy minister, who is my opposite. For those of you that aren't aware, Adrian Dix is moved over from health to the energy file. Why I feel that my next comments are quite positive is that we do have some light on the horizon. I was out in Kitimat, had the opportunity to visit LNG Canada. That is the single largest private investment in Canadian history. There's not a penny of public money went into it. That project was $20 billion. That is the gateway for our natural gas to exit this country, and 100% of it will be going to overseas markets. That, given our current circumstances, what we're potentially facing from the south, that is quite significant. That's going to be a very large economic driver for the Northeast, funneling into the pipeline system, and now we do have an exit to get to overseas markets. Rio Tinto is another one that I was able to visit, and they were, up until LNG Canada was built, they were the single largest private money economic investment in Canadian history as well. It was a very interesting thing to see for those of you that have been to Kitimat. It is a town of 8,000-ish people, 8,200 people, and it has the two largest private investments in Canadian history in that community. It's pretty amazing to see. So the upside to the doom and gloom that you've been hearing in the media, and what you've been hearing, and rightfully so, what we're all concerned about, is that we do have opportunity to move forward. I wish I did have better news on the forestry side. I wish I did. Softwood lumber, any type of renegotiation going across the border is looking to be a challenge in the short to medium term. So I wish I had better news for you folks there. Energy side, we do have light at the end of the tunnel, and on the mining side, I do believe that we also are looking quite good. A lot of the coal that has been produced in the South Piece is shipping overseas already. As far as it's metallurgical coal, it's not thermal coal. And for those of us that haven't been educated as to the difference, the thermal coal is burnt for the purpose of generating power, typically in a coal-fired electrical plant, or for other means of heating. Gasification or gas coal is a much harder coal, much higher quality coal that is used in the production of steel and different alloys of steel and aluminum. So it releases very little CO2 relative to thermal coal. So that it's still environmentally friendly by world standards. We have an abundance of it, and we've seen good investment in the region. And as we heard earlier, there's looking to be additional investment in the area. And that is the market, the very large market for that is overseas, that wouldn't be affected by the tariffs. The other thing that I would like to talk about is the critical minerals. That doesn't affect us as much in the South Piece, but British Columbia is set to be one of Canada's, if not North America's, leaders when it comes to the supply of critical minerals as things go forward. We'll see how things work with the tariffs or the threat thereof, for the simple fact that the largest market would have been our neighbors to the south, because they are trying to disengage from China and trying to disengage from Russia. That was the area where we would have been incredibly well positioned to provide those critical minerals. We'll see where things look going forward. Back to more local issues. Healthcare, obviously, well, I don't think I need to convince anyone in the room that healthcare is in crisis in this province. I sat through a 4-hour, incredibly informative 4-hour presentation by a series of Canadian experts on healthcare. The good news is that what the Conservative Party had proposed during the last election, a universal model using the European system of healthcare, is something that they are recommending, and we received incredible kudos for doing so. For those of you that may or may not remember what we were talking about during that time period, is that universal access, universal healthcare, but it would allow for the non-governmental services to feed into the public system as well, at no cost to the ratepayer. What that means is that we would be able to significantly increase the level of service at no additional cost, with potential cost savings, actually. When that would come through, again, we're not in power at this point, so it's going to be a challenge to push the current government to adopt something of that nature. But I'm without a doctor. My wife is without a family doctor. We feel the pain of those of you that are unfortunate, and the family members that are unfortunate enough not to have access to a family doctor, or having challenges with the medical system, closures, etc. And we continue to push very hard on the current government to rectify that situation. Where that's going to end up is something that I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not going to be able to tell you right here and right now what that's going to look like in 4 years, other than we're going to push very, very hard to make it look significantly better. That was about all I had. Was there any questions I can answer from folks? Yes.
What did you mean when you said that they're trying to adopt the European standard of care? Is that the government funding private care?
Private care wouldn't be no, it's utilizing, which is already happening. If you take a look at what has happened in, say, for instance, Surrey, or when the patient is waiting too long, they have been sent into other jurisdictions to receive care, and that would be the same. So if it was I like to use the MRI as an example. I get an MRI probably twice a year. I have significant back issues, and I have used both the non-governmental MRI in Dawson Creek, and I've used the governmental MRI in Fort St. John. What this system would allow is that you could use either, but then the billing would be to the medical system, not to the individual. Does that make sense?
So you kind of would, like, it would open up for private clinicians to get paid by government so that clients would have to come up with that didn't have benefits, is that?
Correct. Correct. Yes. Sorry, that was a political answer followed up by a real answer. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Neufled. I think one thing that I would really like to see you put on your agenda is the roads in Peace River area, which I know you would address when you talked about it in your campaign. Another thing that seems to get overlooked is a very simple thing is brake checks. Some of the brake checks in the Peace River area, you don't want to go in there with a 4x4. All these poor guys were supposed to stop and get out and walk around their truck and wade in the mud, which some of them are, and they don't have the side these behind. They don't have a place to remove your change. You gotta cross the highway to go into the brake check, the top of the Moberly Hill. You know, there's them simple issues that aren't a big dollar thing for the governments, but it's been going on deaf ears for the last 10, 15 years. So that's just something I'd like to see you put on your agenda. Thank you.
Excellent comment. What I would say to that is that when I did look at the road maintenance contracts, one of the individuals that I did engage was our critic or shadow minister for transportation. He was very keen to get involved. We did. I don't know how many of you follow, and I haven't been not keeping up on my social media posts. I apologize. I get back to the hotel at night, and I don't feel I'm cognizant enough to be intelligent writing things but I will get there. Part of what happened is we did have a series of meetings in Prince George, a meeting in Prince George with a number of MLAs. We do recognize that a one-size-fits-all is not suitable when it comes to road maintenance. One-size-fits-all in a province as diverse and as large as British Columbia seems absurd to me. It really does. We are pushing that forward. The second thing that I would add is that the shadow minister for transportation is planning to come up to visit us on I believe it's the second week of March. We do get 2-week break from the legislature, and his plan is to come up here. And those are the things my plan is to drive him through the area, have him take a look at the Taylor Bridge. He's very aware of the Taylor Bridge, for instance. And I'm glad that you brought up the issue with the brake checks. As I'm not a truck driver, and that's not something that would have occurred to me. So that's a fantastic. I will address that with him. He owns a transport company, and he still drives truck, so he's very keen to those types of situations. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes.
Don't forget Fish Road too. There should be a tire checker and chain there because West Moberly, and then there's another hill that's even worse than West Moberly.
Okay. So what I would like to do then prior to him coming up is I will elicit comments so folks can identify those ones that we're concerned with. And
Site C traffic in the new pipeline, and there are trucks, and you can't even fit 2 vehicles on that road. It's so thin. And they go sideways up the hills and down the hills.
Okay, good. No, these are the types of things that, again, I'm not a trucker. I've worked in the resource industry for 30 years, but I've been driving a pickup truck for those 30 years. So those are absolutely, that's what I want to hear from folks, is what we need to address. Absolutely. Anything else, guys?
What have you heard about our NIFAC base and the reinstatement of that in Chetwynd?
I'll be very honest, nothing. That is something that I need to move higher on my priority list to address. There has been I apologize to say the honest truth that I haven't heard anything, and I will be very frank that I have not pushed it forward as yet, but I will give you my commitment that I will move that higher on my priority list.
Thank you. I think it's really important to not just Chetwynd, but the entire region.
My wife and I have a place in Powder King,
Oh, that's what
and
you said, yeah.
I'm aware that I could need that more than most sooner than later. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry, what was your question?
About reinstating the NIFAC base. It's the Northern Initial Fire Attack Base that was located in Chetwynd until this last year, in which they moved it
To
to Dawson
Dawson.
Creek.
Yep. And we were at the gun show. I had a booth during the campaigning period, and we were next door to the folks that had been moved, and I had quite a few conversations at the time. And again, I'll be very honest, it slipped off the top of my list, but it will get moved higher. Anyone else?
Is there any plan to kind of pressure the current government into investigating the medical system as to why it's so undesirable for people to want to live in there in the first place, and kind of getting more to the root of the problem and stop throwing money at it as a Band-Aid solution?
That was one of the massive takeaways from the incredible presentation that we had. I'm losing track of my days. I want to say yesterday or the day before.
About the European system?
Not only the European system, but that we actually have far more resources than we think we do. It's just the utilization and the efficiency of the system can be increased. And again, using the European model on how to do that. I know folks get worried and get scared when we talk about changing healthcare. No one wants, we all understand how incredibly important healthcare is. We know how incredibly important that is. But without revealing any personal details, I can understand why some folks have checked out of the system and why some folks are reluctant to re-engage with the system. And that was very large part of one of the presentations that we were presented with. And there's definitely some thoughts around it. Fixing the culture was a big one. But it was very detailed in how these were individuals that have done this for a living, that have really, it was incredible to be in that room, honestly, the volume of information that we were given and the ideas that they had. So from that perspective, we have not had an internal discussion on how to push forward with the information we were given. What I would say, though, is that our medical critic our healthcare critic is a medical doctor, and she has been, yes, and she has been engaged with these same group of individuals right from the beginning, as has John Rustad. And that's where a large part of our platform ideas came from with utilizing the European system. And part of that was fixing the culture, looking at opportunities for part-time employment outside of what I understand the current, and I don't want to speak as though I have authority in this area. That's not my expertise. But I understand that the contracts are insisting on full-time employment, whereas we could be attracting folks back into the system that might be interested in part-time or 2-3 days a week type thing.
Yeah, it definitely fills the gaps more.
Absolutely.
More desirable when a nurse wants to work for 12 hours and they can't find childcare, and
Absolutely.
that they have to work 12 hours because they don't have enough nurses.
In fact, one of the presenters was one of the senior surgeons from St. Paul's Hospital. And
That is it accessible, or is it?
I have been told that I will be receiving the slide stacks for it. I will ask for permission to share them publicly. You're not the first one that's asked. I think there was some incredibly valuable. I was furiously taking notes, and a lot of us were taking photos of slides. It was very impressive to hear what these individuals had to say. And just getting back to the issue of part-time nursing, the Dr. Day, Brennan Day? I want to say Dr. Day, one of the very, very senior fellows at St. Paul's, which is a private, or they run a private clinic within, and he said they have absolutely no issue finding very high quality nurses because they hire them part-time, childcare, etc. And they have absolutely no issue finding nurses.
So you get better quality care.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that was one of the things. People are very concerned about private healthcare, and that's one of the things that we need to be careful in explaining what we're proposing in very clear terms. What I will say though is that, and this is released publicly by Dr. Day, that he has treated 2 former NDP premiers at their private clinic. So I will leave that with the group as well. Anything else, guys?
Nothing.
You let me get off easy.
That's what happens, and I guess you're just that good of a presenter. Covered it all. Wonderful. Last chance. We still got time, guys. We've got 20 minutes left.
I can talk for 20 more minutes. Actually, they told us to expect, this is real, they told us to expect when we're doing, there's certain procedural things that I don't fully understand yet when we're in the legislature, but any of us could be handed a, here, you go talk on this for 2 hours with that much notice. Okay. So
touching on the healthcare thing and kind of flipping it over to education, is there a plan in place to help when it comes to the recruitment of teachers?
it hasn't specifically been discussed yet. However, at the meeting I was at just prior to this, we were discussing opportunities to attract healthcare professionals and professionals. I am a professional as well. And any program to create local training opportunities for people that are in need to our community, so educators would definitely be one of those, I would be an incredible support of. I would be a strong supporter of that. It's to have to not move to the other end of the province and pay exorbitant amounts of money for living expenses, for tuition, being able to stay at home, have your family friend network there to support you. I can remember, well, I will admit, it's been a lot of years. That's why all these, but when I first went away to university, I was 17 years old. I moved 6 hours away from home. I knew not another living soul in that city other than the person I moved there with. And wow, this pressure on someone of that age at that time, and to be able to, we talked earlier about a new MLA drinks from a fire hose. So does a first-year university student. So to relieve that pressure and still have that support network and the opportunity for that person that is very attached to the community to stay afterwards is amazing. And yes, I would very much support Northern initiatives to train and retain those professionals.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule today.
Oh,
I
thank
very
you.
much appreciate it. I look
Thank you.
forward to working with you.
Okay.
Tickets. We have a door prize. So we have one of our chamber members, Vitro Barrels, has supplied me with a folder. So there's a Vitrio for these chilly mornings. There's a mug, and then there's a gift certificate as well from a local business. So the last 3 numbers are 414. There we go. Step down. Thank you so much. There you go. Enjoy.
Thank you.
We have coming up at the Chamber of Commerce, like I said, we have our luncheons coming up in February.
Oh, do you?
As well, April 4th to 6th is our annual spring trade show. It's actually the same time every weekend. Every year is the gun show and Classic weekend. One day other than the change your lead. We work on
Can help here, right?
I have a booth in the gun show.
So we are selling out quite quickly. We are already 50% sold. So if you're looking at getting a booth, just quick. I know quite a few of you are in here have booked already, so that's great. And then always coming up as well in the fall is our Harvest Fest. It's the second Saturday of September always, so this year will be September 13th. The Hospital Foundation is also going to be hosting the Harvest Fest dance that night, which kind of combines with their annual gala. So make sure you keep your eyes and ears open for that. So yes, and thank you so much for everybody for coming to attend and taking time out of your busy schedule. And we will hopefully see you all in February. Thank you.
One more note.
Absolutely.
Sorry if I shouldn't have done this. I neglected to mention when I was speaking that I'd like to invite everyone here and everyone in
I was
Chetwynd
going to say,
to
don't forget about your grand opening.
our open house, February 14th and 4 to 6. So the opportunity to come into the office, see how we do things. I'll be very honest with you, I haven't been in there a whole lot since the office opened, but we do have a full-time person there. And to me, learning the role, I think it's a lot more important for me to be out traveling, meeting folks and doing things than sitting behind the desk.
Awesome. And if people want to reach out to you,
You will find the office number on the webpage. I don't know off the top of my head what it is, to be honest, but we are, I was gonna say flakeable, that's not very good. We Googled.
What are you gonna be doing with the coffee at Chetwynd?
There will be something on a scheduled basis in Chetwynd and Tumbler Ridge. Thank you for bringing that up. I want to let everyone know that I'm very much fully engaged with both communities. What that's looking like, Heather, my constituency assistant, has inquired as to a couple of opportunities. And even if I'm traveling, she'll still come. She'll be here on whatever dates we set. I was shooting for once a month, just so that folks don't have to travel to Dawson and you have the opportunity to express your concerns. And again, if I'm in Victoria or if I'm traveling somewhere, the plan is for her to still be here so that she can engage with you and take your concerns and address. She'll be able to address a lot of them. She has access to most of the resources that I have access to. So yeah, if you didn't want to look it up on the internet, the phone number for the MLA office is 250-782-3430. Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you so much.